What's up, guys? Danny here from the Lastercast, hanging out with The Creep, and we just got done watching the premiere episode of Season 3 of Creepshow on Shudder. This is the anthology series brought back by executive producer and showrunner Greg Nicotero, and he has a big part in this first episode. He directs the second segment. He also has a story credit for a teleplay credit for the first episode, for the first segment, and K&B Effects do some really good work in this first episode. If you haven't seen Creepshow yet on Shudder, you remember the George Romero, Stephen King collaboration from 1982 that starred people like Adrienne Barbeau and Ed Harris when he was really young. Great stories. 5-part anthology. Creepshow 2 came out in 1987. There was a Creepshow 3 that, well, the less said about that, the better. But this is an anthology series that really does capture the kind of goofy silliness, but also great effects. And the stories typically have a kind of a moral ending to them. It kind of reminds me almost as much of Tales from the Crypt as it did the original Creepshow films. But let's get into this first episode. I am going to be talking some spoilers, so if you have Shudder and you haven't watched Creepshow yet, go watch it. I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible. But The Creep is back, and we start with an episode, a segment called Mums. This was written by Greg Nicotero and David J. Shaw, and it's based on a story by Joe Hill. And if you don't know, Joe Hill is the son of Stephen King. And it is directed by Rusty Cundieff, who, this man knows his way around a horror anthology. He is the director of the Tales from the Hood trilogy, and he's also done work with the Creepshow series before. Really big fan of Rusty Cundieff, and I preferred this first segment, Mums, to the second one that we'll get into in a few seconds. This one stars Ethan Embry. If you're around my age, you grew up with Ethan Embry as like that goofy sidekick from Empire Records, and I really didn't like him as an actor growing up. And I love what Ethan Embry has become. He was in this great horror film called The Devil's Candy a few years ago. He's really good in this episode. He's really matured as he's gotten older, and I've really come to like his work. He plays this survivalist, almost secessionist dad who's abusive, and the mom is trying to take their son, Jack, played by Braden Benson, and she's trying to basically flee. And he catches her, and long story short, she ends up being killed, and he ends up burying her in her prized garden in the front of their Kansas home. Jack is going through his mom's stuff, finds bags of seeds, and decides to continue her garden. And we get this almost in like an Audrey 2 type way, or where the mom, almost like as a zombie or as this plant monster, comes back, and the story becomes Jack, the son, using the plant monster of his mother to... It's also hinted that the dad might have been burying other people in this garden, by the way, and using them to get revenge on the dad and his survivalist, secessionist friends. It reminded me, especially because Rusty Cundieff directed this, it reminded me of a segment in the first Tales from the Hood movie called Boys Do Get Bruised, where David Alan Grier was this really abusive stepdad, and the kid drew comics portraying his dad as a monster, and he started ripping his comics apart, and whatever he did to the comic book on the page happened to the dad, and he ends up like twisting it around, and David Alan Grier ends up as like a mass of like goo on the floor. Great, one of my favorite segments in the first Tales from the Hood movie. And this gave me that vibe, you know, the whole kid getting revenge against the abusive parents, using some kind of supernatural force. I really like that aspect to it, and the effects are pretty cool. I mean, it's Greg Nicotero, KNB Effects, doing these monster effects where the plants are attacking and dragging people into the earth. Really liked it. It does have more of a Tales from the Crypt vibe, I think, than a Creepshow vibe, but I still really enjoyed this opening segment. I can't really say that I enjoyed the second segment as much. It's called Queen Bee. It was written by Eric Sandoval and Michael Rousselet, and it was directed by Greg Nicotero. And I'll start with the positives. There are creature effects in this that are freaking awesome. Practical creature effects. My daughter, Charlotte, was sitting watching the episode with me, and when the monster reveals itself, it is this really sick-looking transformation scene, and her jaw kind of dropped a little bit. We were both like, oh, not bad. Unfortunately, for me, the acting and the writing is what lets this segment down. This kind of felt like, I have two kids. One of them's in high school now, and then I have Charlotte, who's almost 11. So I've watched a lot of, like, Disney Channel, Nickelodeon. I've watched a lot of bad, you know, young kid shows on those networks. And this, up until that monster part, this felt very Disney Channel, Nickelodeon, the type of writing and the type of acting that you get on those shows that make you like, ugh.
Those are great.
Charlotte says they're great. Yeah. She might have liked this one a lot more than I did. Basically, you have these three kids, teenagers. Two of the girls are arguing over who's this new pop star's #1 fan. Turns out their mom, one of the moms, works in a hospital where the pop star is about to have a baby, so they go to break into the hospital so that they can see the baby and, you know, take pictures, post them to the internet. And it's just so much annoying teenage dialogue that feels very forced. I work in a high school. Kids don't talk like this. And that was part of the thing that I was totally rooting for any monster to kill these kids. So, again, I didn't love Queen Bee. I did love the practical effects at the end. There's a really great monster transformation, which was really cool. And again, K&B effects, so you're going to get that kind of stuff. It's great. But overall, one segment that I really enjoyed, the special effects for, and the best part of Creepshow is that it's 46 minutes. This is a show that just breezes by. I was exhausted, and I put it on last night thinking I'll probably fall asleep during this, and 46 minutes later, it blew by. I was done. I took my notes. I said, all right, I'm too tired to film my video, but man, that show just goes by fast. Love it. New episodes every Thursday on Shudder, and I'm going to be reviewing them. Pete and Sherry might join us to review those episodes. If you go on our channel right now, Pete has an amazing interview up with probably the most famous person that we've gotten to interview on our channel so far, prolific writer and author Joe R. Lansdale. Later on today, Pete and I are going to be interviewing writer and producer Josh Mallerman. We also have some more cool stuff coming up as we get into the spookier season. October is coming, so stay tuned to the Lasercast. We have a lot of great stuff coming up for you, and we'll see you very soon. Tune in Thursday nights on Shudder for Creepshow.